Imagine someone you love, your parent, grandparent, or even a friend, missing out on critical Medicare benefits that could save them thousands or protect their health just because they didn't know the latest updates. In the next few minutes, I'm breaking down the must know Medicare changes happening right now for 2025 that could make a huge difference for them. And stick around because you're going to want to share this with someone you care about. And if you're on Medicare or nearing the age in which you will be applying soon, then you're going to want to pay very, very close attention. And at any point in time, you need to pause this video or rewind or pick up the phone and just dial and call. And I encourage you, call Chapter, our partner, for free Medicare help at any time. 270-467-2426, or visit their website, askchapter.org/Kevin, my name, Kevin, or just give them a call. It's 100% free for free Medicare help. And I think with the recent news and what I'm about to share with you, you're going to want to talk to someone who has a full understanding of how to navigate this complex and oftentimes extremely confusing, potentially money wasting Medicare and all 24 plus thousand options. Now, quick show of hands, how many of you want to save money instead of wasting money? So it doesn't cost you anything to call. It's 100% free. Call our partner, Chapter, 270-467-2426, and tell them Kevin sent you.
Look, Social Security won't be touched. Other than if there's fraud or something, we're going to find it's going to be strengthened, but won't be touched. Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched.
Nothing.
You don't have to. Now, if there are illegal migrants in the system, we're going to get them out of the system and all of that fraud, but it's not going to be touched.
Now, I don't want to sound like a broken record here. And yeah, this was from February 18th, where jokingly, the internet said that President Trump and Elon Musk were interviewing Sean Hannity because Sean Hannity wouldn't shut up throughout the entire interview. But more importantly, I want you guys to pay attention and listen to what President Trump has said, has been saying, and is still saying. And again, actions speak louder than words, folks. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. President Trump says Social Security won't be touched, other than if there's fraud or something. It's going to be strengthened. Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched. Now, if there are illegal migrants in the system, we're going to get them out. And this is huge, folks, because I continue to hear to this day, whether it's on YouTube, in the comment section, out in public. We were at dinner last night talking to some folks and happened to stumble upon the conversation of Medicare and misinformation or disinformation. And the media, the left, they continue to strategically exclude the fact that, yes, President Trump has said Medicare and Social Security will, Medicare, Medicaid, all of which will not be touched unless there is fraud or something. Those problems need to be addressed. They need to be solved. They need to be fixed and corrected. Okay. And so to say, oh, President Trump, Elon Musk, they're making cuts. Yes, they are, to waste, to fraud, to abuse, to all the things that would possibly introduce a shortfall or an abuse of the system and essentially higher costs. Okay. And that's just the beginning, folks. That's just the beginning, because we can see here, and I'd love to get your take on it. Breaking: the U.S. sent $2.7 trillion with a T in Medicare and Medicaid funds overseas to ineligible recipients. That's 8% of our national debt. So the question here is, do you support Kash Patel to investigate this? Yes or no? Okay. Arthur says, in replying to JD Vance, and actually, let me see if I can pull this up. JD Vance says, I hate this smug, self-assured bullshit. And I love the way JD Vance articulates his words in such a way it's just so eloquent. And he says, I know I'm right, and people must be dumb or immoral to disagree with me. Yeah. But I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent here. But Arthur shares this in response to JD Vance, This is way more of a problem than most admit. Millions of illegal immigrants getting taxpayer-funded benefits, Medicare, and even voting. Deportations are only necessary because of the treasonous incompetence that led to this situation. Okay. Is this thing on? Can you guys hear me? Do you see what's happening, what's going on here? I hope that this is sinking in, and more importantly, I hope that you guys will share this, help this video go viral. Can you imagine how helpful and beneficial it would be for people to have access to the truth? Okay. Unbiased, unfiltered truth. AARP is running an ad that Medicare must be protected. Steve Ferguson says they forgot to mention that the illegitimate Biden regime stole $260 billion from Medicare to fund the Green News scam. I wonder why. All right. So now we're getting into the big topic of today, or better yet, yesterday, but now I'm having an opportunity, a chance to bring it to you guys. As we see Mr. J. Powell himself, Mr. Money Printer, Fed Chair Jerome Powell is calling for cuts. Now, this one's interesting because Gunther Eagleman is sharing this, and President Trump, as we just discussed, and his take on cuts. But I think Jerome Powell's take on cuts is completely separate, completely different. And Gunther Eagleman says Fed Chair Jerome Powell breaking is calling for cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security to help solve the deficit crisis. Quote, the biggest parts that are growing are Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and now interest payments. That's really where the work has to be done. Listen to this.
It's very helpful. The reason we do it is it's really good for U.S. Consumers. So we'll continue to do that, just as part of the dollar being a reserve currency, the reserve currency, most important. And we will do that.
You mentioned amongst the issues you were focused on.
And I don't mean to interrupt here, but this scene is reminiscent of the campaign trail with former President Trump at the time, sitting here at the Economic Club of Chicago. Again, you remember Kamala Harris refused to show up. She refused to attend and discuss her economic plan and policy. And instead she chose to spend time with some Call Her Daddy podcast talking about who Lord knows what. But either way, I would love to see, and I love to know your take on this. I'd love to see President Trump go toe to toe with Jerome Powell. I'd love to see the two of them just debate. I'd love to see that happen because Jerome Powell would get absolutely squashed.
Was the U.S. fiscal situation. Well, clearly, U.S. sovereign debt continues to rise. And what are your thoughts on the longer-term implications for interest rates and economic stability? How much further can we go in terms of national debt before we cross a line that might be unsustainable in the long term?
So the U.S. federal debt is on an unsustainable path. It's not at an unsustainable level, and no one really knows how much further we can go.
Yet. And the reason why it's on an unsustainable path is obvious. Now, granted, President Trump is trying to fix that problem. Think about it. If the U.S.'s national debt is on an unsustainable path, what unsustainable path are you aware of that would just ultimately correct itself on its own without making any changes? Okay, that's number one. Number two is we really should be treating this like a business. And I can't think of two better, maybe three better business people to be doing that than President Trump, J.D. Vance, and Elon Musk.
Other countries over time have gone much farther, but we're now, we're running very large deficits at full employment. And this is a situation that we very much need to address. Sooner or later we'll have to, and sooner is better than later. In terms of, if I can say from my time working on these issues, it's not the Fed's issue, but if you look at a pie chart of federal spending, the biggest parts and the parts that are growing are Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and now interest payments.
And I wonder why. Joe, hey, Joe Biden, could you fill us in on why Medicare, Medicaid, and interest payments are now growing out of control? Oh, yeah, probably because you've been giving this shit away to illegals, for people who don't even live in this country, like just billions of dollars wasted.
And so that's really where the work has to be done. And those are issues that can only be touched on a bipartisan basis. Neither party can figure out what to do without both parties being at the table. So that's critical. All of domestic discretionary spending, which is essentially where 100% of the conversation is small as a percentage of federal spending and is declining it's already declining as a percentage of federal spending. So when people are focusing on
this bullshit that Jerome Powell is talking about, they'll miss the true message here. And that if you bring both sides to the table, there will be no solution. Okay. Mainly because the other side of the aisle are only concerned with continuing on with this unsustainable path of financial disaster, national bankruptcy, collapse of the dollar, destruction of the economy for their own personal gain and benefit to launder money through such programs, such NGOs as USAID or whatever. Okay. You let Trump handle this, the problem will be solved. Okay. Literally, let Trump handle this. The problem will be solved. And then you tell me, honestly, beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt, that you want it to go back to the way it was. And I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. But Jerome Powell wants to play this game because Jerome Powell, he's in on it too. And he wants to play this game. And at the end of the day, that game only hurts Americans. It only hurts seniors. It only hurts taxpayers. For now. We've got great news, amazing news that I want to share with you here. But before I do, I also want to share some comments with you and a headline that basically is saying that Trump says Jerome Powell's termination can't come fast enough.
President Trump just posting on Truth Social literally moments ago, the ECB expected to cut interest rates for the 7th time, and yet too late. Jerome Powell of the Fed, who's always too late and wrong, yesterday issued a report which was another and typical complete mess, exclamation point. He writes, oil prices are down, groceries, even eggs are down, he says, and the USA is getting rich on tariffs. Too late, should have lowered interest rates like the ECB long ago, but he should certainly lower them now. Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. So the gloves coming off. I think this is really the first time we've seen the true gloves come off. I mean, you don't hear comments like this, but
he said Powell's going to serve out his term.
Well,
it's only till next May.
But now he's got a nickname for him, calling him too late.
I want to turn now to NBC's business correspondent Brian Chung, who's taken a closer look at the stock market tumble and the tariffs.
Yeah, let's start with yesterday. It was kind of a double whack on the stock market, right? It was down early, and then when the Fed chairman made his comments, it went down again. What's the picture there?
Yeah, and the reason why we pay so much attention to the Federal Reserve is because they're the stewards of the economy. So when they say that the economy is likely to grow slower and also likely to see these price increases and higher inflation as a result of these tariff policies, then that's a really big deal. As you mentioned, it was as those comments were coming out from the Fed chairman where we saw the stock market start to slide. The S&P 500 down over 2%, the Dow Jones down almost 2%, the tech-heavy NASDAQ down 3% in closing yesterday. But we've actually heard from a number of companies saying that, yeah, price increases could be on the way. You'll recall that we were talking about Ford offering employee discounting to kind of get through the tariffs at least through June. Well, now there's reporting from Reuters that apparently they're telling dealers that prices could go up on cars as soon as next month, which means that consumers could start to see price increases on Fords as soon as July.
You want to know the best way to get people to go out and rush and spend money, or better yet, finance and charge and rack up debt on their credit cards, is have some bogus, erroneous reports from some fake news outlet headline telling people that, yeah, if you don't hurry up and buy now, then prices could go up next month.
And then Shein and Temu, these are these extremely popular Chinese discount online shops. They're now saying that they're going to raise prices as soon as next week, April 25th. Just a reminder that price increases really hit consumers. It's not the countries that are exporting these products that are paying the tariffs.
Yeah. So let's talk about what the president just posted on social media, suggesting that Jerome Powell should be fired in light of him saying and acknowledging that there might be an economic downturn. Does the president have the power to unilaterally fire the Fed chair?
Yeah, and by the way, during his first term, when he had Fed Chair Powell as the leader of the central bank as well, he was thinking about the idea and many times of maybe firing him. Apparently, legal authority is a bit ambiguous on that, but there have been some recent legal proceedings with other quote-unquote independent agencies, which the Federal Reserve is one of those, that might give him a little bit more leeway to do it this time around. But again, it's still not all that clear whether or not he can do that. Now, if he does and continues to try to make these threats out there, though, that could bring a lot of volatility to markets, again, because the Federal Reserve and Jay Powell are so instrumental to steering interest rates and steering the course of this economy.
Powell quoted Ferris Bueller.
Obviously, there's a bias to this guy and, how he wants to describe the situation. But, I mean, there's no threats here. And volatility in the economy and the markets, President Trump has already said, Jay Powell, you're too late. The tariffs have been extremely effective in accomplishing the goal. And you should have lowered interest rates already before, but you didn't. And now you still can. But what's happening has nothing to do with Jay Powell. And in fact, he is probably going to be the most tumultuous when it comes to the ebb and flow and ups and downs and the bear and the bull and the crash and the rise and everything as it relates to the economy and stock market because of his inability to do his job effectively. And we've seen that over the course of how many years now?
If you notice sort of the way he's referring to him is, no, in the second instance was just calling him too late.
Whoever his replacement's going to be, by the fall, we're probably going to start hearing enough rumors and trial balloons about it that person, it's not quite the shadow Fed Chair Bessent was talking about, but you start to move in that direction. It's just funny to hear the president call out the ECB. Wow, look at what they're doing. Right. We should be doing the same thing.
But you tell me, do you believe that who do you believe is on a short list who wants to lower rates?
Waller. I don't know if Waller really wants to lower rates, but I think he's indicating that he would not be as obsessed about fighting the last fight on inflation this time around.
Anybody who agrees to take the job is willing to lower rates.
Now, obviously, there should be some concern about lowering rates. However, I think that concern is a little... It's not as bad as it could possibly be, I think, from the pandemic era, because lowering rates is one thing. But lowering rates and printing money and pouring money into the economy and literally giving everyone free money, whether it be by way of stimulus checks or unemployment boosts or PPPs or EIDLs or CARES Act or whatever it may be, that was a recipe for disaster. And here we are, eating this shit sandwich, but we put a little bit of ranch on it, try to make it taste better, some hot sauce on it. Put some of that Crystal on it, or you putting some Texas Pete, or where are you guys going with Cholula, Frank's? I know nobody's out there using Tabasco, but it's a different time. It's a different economy. It's a different presidency. It's a different administration. Everything is different, and I think in conjunction with what we have going on, in addition to a stern and reasonable and competent Fed chair, lowered rates, sans printed money, free money. I'd like to see where that goes. I'd love to see where that goes. And like I said, I've got good news to share with you. Specifically, breaking, President Donald Trump has signed an executive order that seeks to lower prescription drug prices for Americans on Medicare and low-income patients. So think about it like this. Lowered interest rates, you know what that does? It saves you money. Now, granted, if you're not borrowing, it is what it is. If you plan on borrowing, well, a lower interest rate essentially would mean that your payment would be lower on whatever it is you're financing. And if you are already borrowing or already carrying debt, a refinance debt at a lower interest rate does just that, saves you money, which is why it's imperative, I think, at this time, considering what we have here and this great news is being shared, that everyone take the opportunity to save money. give Chapter a call. Give our partner Chapter a call for free Medicare help. They are already saving people like you on average $1,100, okay? And this is from testimonials from actual subscribers to the channel having already called and receiving this free help and navigating these crazy 24 plus. Who could these are experts, folks. And that's why we work with Chapter. That's why I sought out this opportunity to even share and bring this to you guys, because I knew it was going to be so helpful and beneficial. Give Chapter a call. It's free. 270-467-2426. You can visit the website askchapter.org/Kevin, Kevin, or just pick up the phone and dial 270-467-2426. And I think now would be a great time, no better time than ever, to read some of the comments that I've received from you guys here lately. This first one here is from Greg, and Greg says, Kevin, I'm watching you late, and I heard you read about your favorite comment about that Chapter Medicare help. I had seen it on Blind to Billionaires first and called. They took me through and told me I already had the best that I could get. But it doesn't hurt to double check with all the fake news coming into the light. God bless y'all. This next comment here says it is absolutely true that Trump is gutting Social Security and Medicare for illegals. Dems say that illegals do not get Social Security or Medicare, so why are they getting upset? Well, obviously because we know the truth. And speaking of the truth, Kathleen says don't get Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage is through a private company. That's not a good thing. And some only pay 80%, which is leaving you 20%. Stick to the government A and B Medicare because there's more services available for you. And the truth being, well, I think everybody's situation is going to be unique and specific to them. And it would be best just to have the opportunity to have a free phone call with an expert to help you decide and determine whether or not, go with that, or what you have is already the best you can get. And at least then you'll have the peace of mind and you can sleep easy knowing that you aren't wasting money. And this one here just pretty much sums it up as simple and easy as it could possibly be said. Deborah says, yep, got to make the call to Chapter. And I so very much hope that you do and you receive a tremendous amount of help and better yet, save money. I hope you come back and share your stories. And I want to thank each and every one of you so far who have done so already, because it is very helpful in sharing this story and getting the word out and spreading the truth. Thank you guys so much.
That's a good insight. Even people who probably don't want to. What would happen to the dollar?
If they lowered rates?
Yeah, already at lows.
But look,
I mean,
it
this
depends
is the
on what
thing.
happens
I think
with
you're
the
playing
labor
with fire.
market.
I mean, that's the danger here.
If everything holds in the way it is now, it wouldn't be as logical.
But then again,
6 months from now, if we have smaller jobs or prints and whatever.
And again, if some of these prints where we had negative inflation, if some of those are real, I mean, this is all pre-tariff, but we've had the inflation numbers have been crazy in oil.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if the economy really is, if people, the uncertainty, I mean, you'd like to preempt anything
but
serious.
I would suggest, and I don't know if you think this is right or wrong, that actually the marketplace and the country likes the idea that there's a Fed that at least thinks or is acting or pretending to act independently of the president. I think actually, given everything that's going on,
they could be wrong.
Given the sort of
he could be right again.
Full Republican status of all of Washington.
Right.
I think people are generally happy that there's a third or fourth party out here that's independent.
But you don't.
They have to trust their judgment.
If you had somebody in there that you also thought was sort of under the thumb of this White House, I think people would think that is actually not a good outcome.
Stubbornly holding on to their position just to make it seem like they're
why I said
independent.
I agree with that too, but I'm just saying I think in the grand scheme of
in hindsight, it might be the right time. It might actually, we'll know in 3 months where the economy is.
All over,
right? We'll know in 3 months whether they should have been cutting now. We talked about how Trump doesn't have the ability to put a floor on this market if he's going to keep with the tariffs. The Trump put, but maybe the combination of the Trump put and the Powell put could stabilize us.
Right. Well, but I'll tell you, I think that right now, because Powell is considered an independent actor, he actually still has some semblance of credibility to put a floor on the market. I think if you thought that the person was also basically part of the White House and you think that Trump doesn't have the floor, I mean, doesn't have the put, that person doesn't have the put either.
Yeah.
There's no floor on United Healthcare.
Look at that.
Well, we're going to talk more.
I think it's 20% now.
Yeah, it's down almost 20%. That's why the Dow's down 400 points pre-market. We'll have a lot more details after the break.
And I'll have a lot more details for you guys coming up in future videos. I got a lot planned for you today alone. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're hitting the like button. It helps out the channel tremendously. I greatly appreciate it. And great news, folks. The White House posted this. President of the United States announced plans to lower prescription drug prices and increase transparency in the market, delivers low drug prices to Medicare, provides discounts to low-income patients for life-saving medications, and it increases the availability of generics and biosimilars. President Trump signs an executive order to lower prescription drug prices. Let me get a quick show of hands. Quick show of hands, okay? So let me get a quick show of hands here. How many of you guys are thrilled to hear this news that President Trump has signed this executive order to lower prescription drug prices and lower the drug prices for Medicare? And what do you think about a Fed chair being a part of the White House or in the White House? It seems like some of the counters to this, maybe the debate here is that folks just don't want the Fed chair to be in sync and in tune with President Trump, even though that this could lead to the greatest economy that the U.S. has seen in decades. And it's all because they don't want it all to just literally be like, well, you know, Trump, he did what he said he was going to do. He took America back. He made it great again. This is like, it almost seems like this is a ridiculous argument to have as to why it shouldn't be the way that it could be, instead of trying to keep things the way that they are. And in essence, Jerome Powell or whatever replacement Fed chair they may be after he's serves out his term in May, or maybe even gets terminated before then prematurely. But I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you think, and I want to know what your phone call was like, your free phone call to Chapter, and how that went. So make sure you drop a comment down below. And I highly doubt that anybody watching has any objections to a free opportunity of saving money or putting money back in your Social Security. So if that is the case, do me a favor, have Chapter's phone, have our partner Chapter's phone ringing off the hook today with your calls so that they can help you guys as they have perfected, and you can see here on their website, Medicare Made Simple. Chapter, give them a call, folks. The number's on the screen. There's information down in the description. I'll include it in the pinned comment as well. 270-467-2426, anytime, 24/7, any day of the week. You give Chapter a call, tell them Kevin sent you, visit their website, askchapter.org/Kevin. And I appreciate you guys more than you know. And I look forward to seeing you guys here on the next video, where I plan to have even more great news, better news, and updates to share with you guys. So let me know, are you looking forward to that?